A former New York Met calls for a new captain to this current team, and Pat Ragazzo of SI Sports gives us the latest in regard to Jose Quintana next on MetCast. Welcome back to MetCast, friends. As always, I am Randy. If you're enjoying this content, I ask you to like and subscribe. Turn that notification bell on so you never miss an upload. So John Franco was on with Brandon Tierney and Salicata on WFAN today, and he had some really interesting comments, something that I've been calling for probably 2 years now. I want to get to the video, and we'll give you the reaction right after. Let's take a look.
Pop-ups or something's talking about that. Uh, I think it would be great. I think I think he's an unofficial team captain right now without the C on him.
Kind of like you were, right?
Yeah. So I guess eventually
He is talking about Francisco Lindor.
put the C on him. I think he'd be a great captain. I think Pete would be a nice captain. I think Brenda would be a nice captain, but I think he has a little bit more edge on him.
You think the Mets have that with Francisco Lindor?
Oh, absolutely. I said it the other day. I think he'd be a right choice. No disrespect to Pete or Brandon Nimmo, the guys who've been there a long time. I just think he has this certain aura about him. You know, that certain everyday guy. He's always smiling. Whether he's 0 for 4 or 4 for 4, they're always talking to the young players. I mean, I saw a clip in spring training just a couple of days ago where he was talking to somebody about, I guess they were going back on pop-ups or something's talking about that. I think it would be great. I think I think he's an unofficial team captain right now without the C on him.
Kind of like you were, right?
Yeah. So I guess so.
And that's what we got from John Franco, calling for the New York Mets to name Francisco Lindor their next team captain, something that I, especially on this channel, have been calling for a while. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down in the comments in regard to this. Who do you think should be named the next team captain, if anybody? You have Wright. His number's getting retired in July. Maybe it's time to pass the torch. There's an argument to be made for probably Brandon Nimmo. I would say lesser for Pete Alonso, only because we're unsure with his contract. It's really essentially a 1-year contract this year. So if you name the captain, all of a sudden he leaves, it would look poor on the franchise. But Francisco Lindor is going to be retiring a New York Met. And no, I understand he's not homegrown. He had this stuff years ago, Javier Baez with the thumbs down thing. But I think he is the unquestioned leader of this team, not only on the field, but off the field. He takes a lot of strides. I know Nimmo is a homegrown player, but he's just not as talented as Lindor, and I don't think he takes that leadership role as much as Lindor, which doesn't mean that he's not a great player. It just means that Lindor, the shoe fits with him. So he would have my vote. Let me know what New York Met you would want to see get the captaincy if the New York Mets are able to pass this on and they decide to make a captain in 2025, or probably most likely he would be named captain in 2026 after Wright's number's retired and that torch is passed. Now I want to get to our next topic, and it is Pat Ragazzo with SI Sports. Had the news today earlier that the New York Mets and Jose Quintana have mutual interest. He just released an article that I would like to go over with you. Let's give it a look. So we have this article of Pat Ragazzo of SI Sports relating to his news today of Jose Quintana and the New York Mets. And it says, source, Mets Jose Quintana have mutual interest in reunion. He goes on to say, given how he goes on to say on February 17th, news broke the New York Mets and right-hander Frankie Montas suffered a high right grade lat strain and would be sidelined for the next 6 to 8 weeks. We all know this by now before camp began ramping up for the season. We knew this by now. Given how this means Montas will still need an entire spring training to ramp up after being fully healed, it's clear that he'll be missing considerable portion of the start of the 2025 season. You heard Frankie Montas speak earlier today. It happened in his first session in spring training. This happened to him. But we can't sit here as Met fans realistically say we're surprised. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is surprised. Go look at Montas's injury history over the last 5 years. He's had like 3 shoulder injuries, a hand injury. He has been out nonstop. This left the Mets with an intriguing decision. they could either find someone within the organization to take Montas's place in the starting rotation or look elsewhere, perhaps through trying to find a free agent. He goes on to say, in a February 17th article, John Heyman and the Mets posted coveted who he believed to be the perfect solution to the issue. It's Jose Quintana. Quote, Jose Quintana is a guy they all loved last year, and I can't figure out why they haven't brought him back already, or frankly, why he doesn't have any job. The Mets should view this as an opportunity, Heyman wrote in his article. It seems the Mets would agree with Heyman's statement, as Pat Ragazzo on SI wrote. Ex sources, Jose Quintana is very interested in a reunion with the Mets and would love to come back. And there is the tweet right there. We posted about that a couple of days ago. He reported it. We also know Mike Puma reported it over on X. Sources say the Mets and Quintana camp have been talking, so the interest is certainly mutual here, and on both fronts, per Pat Ragazzo, which he broke that earlier today. Quintana signed a 2-year, $22 million deal in New York back in December of 2022. While injuries kept Quintana sidelined for much of 2023 season, he was a crucial part to the Mets' success in 2024. That 3.75 ERA that we all know he had last year, over 135 strikeouts, over 170 and a third innings pitch. He had a very good season for the New York Mets. He's still unsigned this offseason, would surely like to change that very soon. And from the looks of it, he's extremely keen on returning to Queens. Does it get any better than that, Met fans? Bring him back. Enough is enough with this shenanigans. Just bring him in. I understand. Look, I'm not giving him a 2-year deal. And that's what was rumored that he wanted. Maybe that's why he's been out there a little bit longer, waiting for an injury like this to potentially happen to capitalize. But I don't think the Mets would give him a 2-year deal, maybe a mutual option. But could you get him for 1 year, $8 million, or 1 year, $7 million with incentives? I'd be all over that. Then when Montas comes back, you worry about it then, because odds are you're going to have other injuries throughout the rotation. You don't know what Griffin Canning's going to be giving you. You don't know what, David Peterson, hopefully he's able to do what he did again last year, but that's no guarantee. And then who knows what Montas is really going to be. And odds are he's going to be opting into that $17.5 million deal unless he has a spectacular second half, which is a possibility. And one thing that happened that really is a shame when I really think about it is I was okay with the Montas signing only because he was going to be spending an entire spring training inside that New York Mets pitching lab. And now he's going to lose out on that. And I know that they say, oh, the New York Mets are going to give him a full spring training ramp up. Well, Jeremy Hefner's not going to be there. And I feel like that's going to have a major impact. Hefner is going to be with the Major League Ball Club. He's not going to be with Montas down in Port St. Lucie in the pitching lab. And that's what my hopes were for him. You hear that David Stearns identifies these pitchers and then turns them into something. And I feel like he's going to be behind the 8 ball regardless of what happens. But be sure to let me know what your guys' thoughts are of Jose Quintana. Would you give him a 1 year, $8 million contract, or should a Mets stick with those internal options at Tyler McGill's, the Griffin Cannings, the potential of Brandon Sproat, depending on what he does in spring training? But for me, bring in the veteran. I want the depth. We all know that this is a very long season. Look at the Dodgers last year, won the World Series with a bunch of nobodies because their entire pitching rotation was sidelined. And I want to win the East, and winning the East is having the best talent, in my opinion. But guys, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoy this content, I ask you to humbly like and subscribe. Share this with a friend if you're enjoying this content, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss any Mets content. Tomorrow night, we'll be having Nelson Figueroa on live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, where on YouTube, you can get involved in the conversation. Ask Nelson questions, give him your comments, your concerns, what you're excited about for the season. Be sure to tune in so you don't miss that. And as always, let's go Mets.